Hello, everyone. Wishing you all a wonderful day. Today, we'll dive into a heartwarming winter tale of family, resilience, and quiet love in a small Vietnamese village. Follow Dee, Huyen, and little Maya as they battle the cold, seal their home, and face an unexpected visitor at dusk. If you enjoy this touching story, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next episodes. The winter sky had not yet dawned, with thick mist weaving through every path, seeping through the cracks in the wooden walls of the small house tucked in the village corner. In the earthen kitchen, the flickering oil lamp illuminated a simple meal tray, just hot sweet potatoes and taro. The steam rising from the pot of potatoes chased away some of the skin-cutting winter cold. Maya, the petite girl in an old wool sweater, toddled out to the door, her cheeks rosy from the chill. "Uncle D, come in for breakfast, or you'll be late for school." Her voice rang out crisply in the silent space. Day stepped in, his hands red and chapped, breath puffing white smoke. He sat down by the meal tray, peeling a potato while glancing around the house. Huyen placed a plate of hot potatoes down, her voice full of worry. "Eat up. It's colder than yesterday. Remember to wear an extra layer." Dee nodded slightly, peeling a potato for Maya while looking at the drafty wooden wall where the wind whistled through in gusts. "We're short on wood. It's too cold like this. I'll buy some this afternoon to seal it," he said softly. Huyen pulled out a few crumpled bills from her pocket and placed them on the table. "I have a little left. Add it to yours. We need to seal the house before the monsoon winds get stronger." Maya smiled brightly, eyes sparkling. "Today, Uncle will take me to school on the newly fixed bike, right?" Dee nodded, ruffling her hair. "Yeah, the bike runs smooth now. Hop on. Uncle will take you." Before heading out, Huyen reminded, "Remember to study well and listen to the teacher, okay, sweetie?" Maya grinned widely, hugging Day's neck. "Yes, I know." Day bent down to zip up Maya's jacket, then gave her a tight hug. In that moment, his eyes suddenly grew somber. A fleeting sadness passed. Thoughts of Tieu, of the land being forced to sell. He stayed silent, not wanting to voice it, only gripping the handlebars tighter as he stepped outside. The motorcycle engine roared crisply, echoing through the early mist. White smoke swirled around, carrying the warmth of the uncle and niece as they faded into the narrow alley. Huyen stood at the door, holding the dog Bibi in her arms, eyes following them, her heart both warm and anxious. This winter, they needed more than a wooden wall to keep the warmth in their home. The dirt road was covered in mist. Dee's bike rolled slowly. Each time the wheels hit a pothole, a spray of cold dust flew up. Maya hugged Dee's back tightly, cheek pressed against his jacket, giggling. "Uncle drives faster than my friend's dad." Dee chuckled, the cold wind slapping his cheeks, but his heart strangely warm. He remembered the days before. The same road, just him and the old bike, running in silence. Now it was different. The child's laughter from behind made everything less lonely. At the school gate, De bent down to retie Maya's shoelaces, his hands stiff from the cold, but still meticulous. "Study hard. Uncle will pick you up in the afternoon," he instructed. "Yes," Maya waved, running into the schoolyard full of children's laughter. Day turned the bike around, stopping at a small house by the roadside, the old wood shop he often visited. "Do you still have the type of wood from last time?" Dee asked. The shop owner nodded, tying 3 sturdy bundles of wood onto the bike and adding a sack of dry rice husks. "It's getting cold. Making extra walls for warmth, huh?" Deja smiled and nodded lightly. "Yeah, need to block the wind for the little one." On the way back, the wind blew stronger, carrying the smell of burning fields. He thought of Tieu's words, the woman once close to him, now only cold calls. Sell the land, don't hold on anymore. But that land was his mother's memory, his childhood, where Maya was growing up. Selling it meant losing everything. He gripped the handlebars tightly, eyes stinging from the wind, or something else. He wasn't sure. The bike passed the freshly harvested field, only dry stubble standing still in the mist. In the distance, smoke still rose from his kitchen. Huyen was tending the garden, probably forgetting her gloves again. That thought made him throttle up faster. At home, Huyen was bent over the damp soil bed, her hands deftly sowing seeds of coriander and scallions. BB lay curled in the corner of the porch, drowsily watching. "Stay there. Okay. Tomorrow Mom will sew you a warm coat," she said softly, her voice gentle. A light drizzle began to fall. Huyen quickly covered the newly sown bed with rice husks. The cold was numbing, her hands red and swollen, but she kept going. The chicken coop was dirty. She cleaned it thoroughly, spreading a thick layer of husks, the chickens pecking at the grain. "Eat a lot, so you can lay eggs soon," she smiled, talking to them as if to herself. She looked up toward the river. The water surface was gray and hazy, wind rattling the dry branches. "I have to keep going," she thought. "So we have vegetables to sell for Tet. So Maya has new clothes. So our house is warmer." A strong gust blew through, tousling Huyen's hair. She pulled her scarf tighter and continued her work. Each seed sown was like a hope, a promise for tomorrow. The familiar motorcycle sound echoed from the alley head. Dee returned, the back of the bike loaded with wood and husks. He didn't rest, took off his jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and started installing the wall right away. The sounds of hammering and sawing rang out rhythmically, drowning out the wind. Huyen stood in the bed on the other side, silently continuing to spread husks. The two worked in parallel. Few words, only short exchanges. "Enough wood. Enough. You handle the garden." The air was tense, not from arguing, but from the cold and pressure. They had to finish before dark, before the night chill rushed in. Dee nailed the boards, sweat rolling down his forehead despite the biting cold. He wanted the room sealed from the wind before Maya came home. Huyen looked at him, her heart suddenly warm. He never lets me feel cold. BB ran around the yard, barked a few times, then crawled into the kitchen corner. Day finished installing several planks, leaving a small window for light. He planned to hang his mother's old curtain there tomorrow. Outside, the wind howled stronger, as if testing whether these two people had enough perseverance to hold on to their warmth in the freezing winter. The late afternoon light filtered through the newly installed wooden planks, casting on the garden, still lingering with earthy dampness. Huyen bent down to pick up a small wild peony plant, roots still clinging to moist soil. She cradled it like a treasure. "Look, can I plant it between these two trees?" Dee stopped sawing, wiped his sweat, and stepped closer. He tilted his head, examining the spot Huyen chose. "Looks good, balanced. When these flowers bloom, our yard will brighten up." The two dug the hole together. The soil was hard from the cold, each shovel strike echoing dryly. When Dee handed the shovel to Huyen, his hand accidentally brushed hers. The touch was very light, but enough to make both pause. A brief moment they hadn't had all day. Silent, close, peaceful. "You're more beautiful than the peony," Dee said softly, his voice low and sincere. Huyen smiled, cheeks flushing from the cold, or those words, hard to say. "You're teasing again." "No, I mean it." They mounded the soil, lightly watering it with a few ladles. The flower stood between the two old tree trunks, small but resilient like them, choosing to bloom amid the chill. Dee returned to his work, the sawing steady like the house's heartbeat. Huyen stood watching, feeling warmer inside. He's always like that, quiet with words, but always doing, never letting her bear everything alone. The wall gradually sealed, blocking the wind. In the small garden, a new sprout had just been planted, a quiet, enduring hope. Night fell completely, mist thick, wind howling through the tin roof. Huyen rekindled the fire, the smell of smoke mixing with roasting corn spreading through the small earthen kitchen. The flames flickered, casting shadows of the two on the wooden wall, intimate and cozy. "Cold?" Huyen asked, voice hoarse from the smoke. Dee smiled, holding his hands out to the fire. "Cold, but with corn and you, it's warm." He sat closer, extending his hand to warm with hers. The firelight reflected in his eyes, gentle but deep. Huyen held the corn cob, turning it evenly. "Hot enough?" "Not yet," Dee replied. "Hug a bit more for warmth." Huyen laughed. He wrapped his arm around her shoulders, warmth spreading quickly. Outside, the wind still howled, but inside the earthen kitchen, only the crackling of firewood and their synchronized breathing. The corn turned golden. Huyen peeled the husk, picking off crisp kernels to give him. "Try it. See if I roasted it well." Dee bit in, nodding. "The best this winter." Smoke blew into her face. Huyen wrinkled her nose. Dee quickly shielded her. "The stove's too low. Tomorrow I'll add bricks so you don't have to bend." She smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. "Having you is enough." They sat like that, saying little. The old house, the newly sealed wall, the small fire burning steadily. The wind outside faded, as if blocked by their embrace and shared warmth. That brief moment, for them, was simple and rare happiness. A roasted cornmeal, a hug, and faith that this winter they would overcome together. The sudden motorcycle sound rang out in the yard, overpowering the firewood crackle. Both looked up. Huyen frowned slightly. Who could it be at this hour? The bike's headlight beamed through the wooden doorframe. A strange man in a black jacket, carrying a dark red bag, stepped down. His eyes sharp and cold, scanning the yard, the garden, the chicken coop, then stopping at the newly wind-blocked wall. Dee stood up, still holding the roasted corn cob. Huyen instinctively gripped his hand. The stranger didn't knock, just walked in. Shoes still wet with mist, leaving dirty marks on the earthen floor. In a freezing Vietnamese village winter, Dee, Huyen, and little Maya live simply in an old wooden house. Misty dawn brings hot sweet potatoes. Dee takes Maya to school, then buys wood to seal drafty walls. Huyen sows seeds, cleans the coop, hoping for Tet money for new clothes. Afternoon, Dee builds the wall. Huyen plants a wild peony. Their hands brush, sparking quiet warmth. Evening, they roast corn by the fire, hugging against the cold. Suddenly, a stranger in a black jacket arrives, eyes sharp, entering without knocking. Tension thickens. The shields Huyen as wind howls outside, hinting at storm. The story ends on the fragile line between family warmth and unexpected darkness.